What is Saronic? I never heard of this company.
Yeah, Saronic, well, if you haven't spent a ton of time, sort of in the trying to come onto the shores of the United States, then maybe you wouldn't have swimming in our waters here. No, I mean, Saronic is a naval ship company. They are quickly becoming one of the best funded startups in defense tech. And essentially, what they do is that they build sort of warships and naval vessels and try to sell them to the US Navy.
Okay, but you said in the story these are autonomous warships?
Yeah, they're unmanned generally. So Saronic is bundling sort of their autonomous software with the ships, and that's sort of a big future priority for the U.S. Navy.
Okay, and so the U.S. government are they the only customer for Saronic right now, or who are they selling to?
They're the only significant customer, to my knowledge. They, I think, aspire to also sell like a lot of sort of defense tech companies to U.S. allies. Sometimes that's easier said than done. Countries tend to want to sell, or excuse me, to buy technology from homegrown companies. So that can be difficult, but they aim to sell to U.S. allies as well, and they also, could have a commercial, sort of could sell their software commercially at some point down the road, and they might need to. I mean, they have a big valuation now. It's potentially up to $9 billion.
And what do we know about the revenue profile for the company?
We reported in the story that they generated just over $200 million in revenue last year. So that's it's fair to say investors are expecting a hefty amount of growth in the coming years, and if they don't get it, then Saronic will look wildly overvalued. Because that's not a that's a pretty significant multiple, at least looking at the previous year. But look, these are really big ships. They're trying to sell them for a lot of money, and investors are betting that the Navy's going to buy them.
Okay, so one of the interesting parts that you had in your story is that Kleiner is leading this deal, and is Kleiner a big defense tech investor? Is this a practice that they're building out? I mean, is this a trend that we're seeing that VCs are starting to build out these practices? Because I can only imagine how much technical expertise must be required for an investor to understand any of this.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Akash. Kleiner Perkins hasn't done a major defense tech deal before. This will be out of their growth fund. So it's designed for later stage companies. Kleiner Perkins has invested in Flock Safety, which obviously sells sort of license plate scanning cameras to police departments, but slightly different than defense tech. No, I was surprised. We had been hearing about this round for at least for weeks, that Saronic was out there trying to drum up interest. And I personally expected either one of the VC firms that has really, sort of put defense tech front and center of their whole message to kind of go out and try to lead this round, like an Andreessen Horowitz or Founders Fund or 8VC or something like that. So I was a bit surprised when Kleiner sort of was the one that emerged as leading it. But look, I think from what I hear from VCs that are doing these types of big deals is like, why would I invest in, why the third AI, coding startup right now, when they might not exist tomorrow. Sort of, and I think folks are looking at companies like SpaceX that have built, monopoly-esque businesses over a long period of time. Um, uh, they see a hardware mode. They see, hey, it's like expensive to build these companies, but once you do, it's pretty sticky. So I think Saronic is, it makes sense why a firm like this would bet on them, but it certainly, you know, uh, I wouldn't be that surprised if in 5 years I'm back on the show talking about the, sort of, cautionary tale of Saronic as well.
But I mean, let's go back to sort of expertise. I am curious, the people you talk to, the people at these venture firms, I mean, are these is it the same group of investors that were investing in, I'm not calling them low tech, but, software companies of, 5, 6 years ago? Have they sort of expanded their focus area, or do you have people who actually have backgrounds in the military or in building warships that are now coming on board to these investment companies to offer their expertise?
It's everyone will say they've done really strong diligence, Akash, on these companies no matter what. No, look, I think that's one of my major questions as more capital comes into the space is like, as an investor, do you know what you're buying? Do you know how revenue is actually going to flow and whether this company is going to be able to sell their product, across enough customers that it's going to turn into a meaningful business? I mean, look, I think VC firms are increasingly tapping advisors who have been high up in branches of the military or the government. Those linkages are probably stronger than ever. But yeah, I think the investors, particularly that have been doing defense tech for a while, will look at some of these deals done more by generalists and say, I don't know about this one. So, I mean, that's something to watch going forward. It's not necessarily sort of, explicit or directed, just at Saronic. I think people have opinions on this company, and some people are really bullish. Some people think, the valuation is ahead of the traction. But, look, I think VC firms uh, are used to sort of following the herd to some degree, and also accustomed to making bets that they can sit in front of their investment committee and defend. And so, I think this one might be like right on that edge.
Well, I love your cautious uh, analysis of a business like this, Corey, because like you said, it seems to be very much a sign of the times. But at the end of the day, who knows, really?
It's
Uh,
interesting. I like writing about these companies more than the 10th coding startup.
well, I mean, maybe just sort of get your temperature on this. I mean, where do you think this sits on the fence? Are you sort of looking at this, being like, I don't know about this one, guys?
I mean, I don't know enough. I haven't seen, the ships in action, or like, I haven't talked to a naval customer yet or anything like that. It's unique. I think Anduril is kind of a company paving the way here in terms of, companies that um are capital intensive, burn a ton, and are trying to sell big, sort of weapons and war machines, that are quite expensive to manufacture and expensive to buy. So, um, we'll see. I think it just like might take a while. I think with all these companies, I think if it's going to succeed, it's usually on a slightly longer time horizon than investors are used to.
Great. Well, Corey, I want to thank you for coming on. That is Corey Weinberg, our Deputy Bureau Chief of Finance here at The Information.